Shocking, 20 A-list celebs who publicly dissed Ryan Reynolds. You won't believe who's on the list.
I did a film with an absolute idiot of a co-star, and this human being was being so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scenes out.
I did a film with an absolute idiot of a co-star, and this human being was being so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scenes out. I think I was so vulnerable and uncomfortable. For years, Ryan Reynolds has been regarded as a top-tier Hollywood star, but many fellow celebrities have called him out for his inflated ego, lack of manners, and history of bullying. You'll be surprised to learn about the 10 stars who openly criticized him and the shocking words they used to describe his behavior. While Reynolds has long masked his true nature with humor, his facade crumbled when he blatantly displayed his rudeness toward Jersey Shore stars Sammy Giancola and Dina Cortese. During their appearance on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, the cast was asked about unpleasant experiences with celebrities. Sammy attempted to respond cautiously without revealing any names, as exposing powerful Hollywood figures in such situations can have serious consequences. As we delve further, you'll see why this is a crucial concern even for other highly esteemed stars. Sammy stated, "Me and Dina encountered a rude celebrity once. We don't want to say who it is," attempting to keep the person's identity under wraps. However, Dina didn't hold back and exposed that they were talking about Ryan Reynolds. Still, she tried to keep things light by adding, "He was not great to us. I love Ryan Reynolds, and I love Blake Lively, and he didn't want to be by us." Sammy also admitted that while Ryan was impolite, she still admires him. She even gave him the benefit of the doubt, suggesting maybe he had a bad day. Sammy and Dina are not the only ones hesitant to name names when discussing unpleasant celebrity encounters. Rebecca Ferguson experienced such a distressing situation on one of her past film sets that she felt compelled to speak out about the blatant disrespect she endured from a co-star. Although she never identified the individual, she vividly described the traumatic ordeal.
That I got screamed at, but because this person was number one on a call sheet, there was no safety net for me. So no one had my back,
she revealed. Despite feeling terrified of this person, Rebecca received no support because her co-star held significant influence in Hollywood and played a crucial role on set. However, she refused to back down and firmly stated,
and I looked at this person and I said, "You can F off. I'm going to work towards a tennis ball. I never want to see you again."
Of course, it wasn't a simple decision, as the producers couldn't remove the co-star due to their top-ranking status on set. As a result, Rebecca had to find another way to assert herself. "And I said, but the person can turn around and I can act to the back head," she explained. Ever since Rebecca made this bold statement about a well-known but unnamed actor, people have been eager to uncover who she was referring to. Given that she mentioned acting to the back of someone's head, many assumed the project must have involved CGI, where such adjustments could be made in post-production. However, one of her past films, Life, seems to fit the situation even better, especially since she starred alongside Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. Speculation initially centered around Jake or other co-stars from her previous projects, but recently, more attention has turned to Ryan. This shift in focus comes as troubling stories about him continue to surface, including controversies surrounding Blake Lively and lawsuits involving Justin. During the promotion of Life, Rebecca noticeably chose to do press alone, avoiding appearances with her two leading co-stars. This further fueled the belief that the incident happened on that set, with many now pointing the finger at Ryan. After all, this wouldn't be the first time someone hesitated to name him in a situation like this. And do you know what makes this story even more unsettling? Despite Rebecca never revealing a name, her colleagues started reaching out to warn her, telling her, "You understand what you've done, right?" However, she refused to back down, firmly stating that if someone is truly a good person, they have nothing to worry about. Many now believe Ryan had been carefully maintaining a positive image before cracks in his persona started to show. What's even more surprising is that Rebecca may not have been the only one who clashed with Ryan on that set. Jake Gyllenhaal, who was once considered a close friend of Ryan's, has also distanced himself from him. In an interview, Jake was asked, "We know you have an ongoing feud with Ryan, you know that guy. What's it going to take for him to actually be BFFs with you?" He responded,
"Well, I mean, in truth, There was a time in which we were.
Suggesting that their friendship had once been real, but later soured. Whatever Ryan did must have been serious, as Jake didn't hesitate to completely shut him down when asked if he had any words for him. Any words for Ryan, seeing as the next time we talk to him, he will be seeing...
He will be seeing that.
I have nothing to say to him.
Jake's expression at that moment said it all. His feelings about Ryan were crystal clear. When it comes to co-stars, Morena Baccarin also had some less than pleasant experiences with Ryan Reynolds, which may explain why her role in the Deadpool franchise was significantly reduced. She started as a key character in the first film, but later found herself sidelined, playing a much smaller part. Now, it's being revealed that this shift was no coincidence. Morena was deliberately excluded from press events and promotions for Deadpool and Wolverine due to a disagreement with Ryan on set. At the film's premiere, red carpet photos showed Morena standing alone, a move reportedly influenced by Ryan himself. This situation draws an interesting parallel to what happened between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni during It Ends With Us, where behind-the-scenes tensions also played a major role in shaping public appearances. What happened between Morena Baccarin and Ryan Reynolds on the Deadpool set was so significant that she wasn't even photographed with any of her fellow co-stars at the premiere, despite all of them happily gathering around Ryan. Their disagreement may have been about adjusting her role or the film's humor, but Ryan's ego seemingly couldn't handle it. Whatever the conflict was, he made sure to use his influence to push her aside. Morena stood her ground, yet with no one willing to back her up, she was ultimately left out. Ryan Reynolds may be the king of jokes, but these celebs didn't hold back their shade. Drop a 1 in the comments and stick around until the end to see who dissed him the hardest. And do you know who else has called Ryan out for masking his insecurities with humor? Another Deadpool co-star, TJ Miller. TJ, who played Weasel in the franchise, openly admitted that he walked away from the film because of Ryan and wouldn't have returned for Deadpool 3, even if they had doubled his previous paycheck. He also made it clear that he would never work with Ryan again, as he never fully recovered from how terribly he was treated on that set. TJ Miller recalled a Deadpool moment that felt truly unsettling.
Deadpool, where he said, "Let's do one more take." And everyone was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. He was like horrifically mean to me, but to me.
Cathartic.
As if I'm Weasel.
Even though both actors have backgrounds in comedy, TJ is convinced that Ryan wasn't joking. He was deliberately belittling him in a way that felt personal and cruel. When he said, so he was like,
"So you're not the star, but you just, you do just enough exposition that it's funny, and then we can leave and get back to the real movie."
TJ couldn't understand why Ryan would choose to be so rude or try to humiliate him simply for playing a supporting role. He strongly believes Ryan's behavior stemmed from deep insecurities rather than any other reason. To him, it was an intentional way to remind him that he wasn't as big of a star. And this isn't the first time Ryan has been called insecure. His exes have made similar claims, with one in particular revealing how deeply she was scarred by his behavior, which we'll get into next. When TJ Miller stated he would never work with Ryan Reynolds again, he wasn't alone in that sentiment. Former Deadpool director Tim Miller also walked away from the franchise because of Ryan. Tim revealed that Ryan's controlling nature over the Deadpool films ultimately pushed him out, making it impossible for him to continue. Tim explained that Ryan wanted full creative control, which clashed with his own approach to filmmaking. "You can successfully work that way as a director, but I can't. I don't mind having a debate, but if I can't win, I don't want to play, and I don't think you can negotiate every creative decision. There's too much to make." His departure made it clear that working alongside Ryan meant giving up too much creative freedom, something Tim wasn't willing to do. With Ryan Reynolds being the face of the Deadpool franchise, he had the upper hand in forcing Tim Miller out of the production when the director refused to compromise. But Ryan's controlling tendencies aren't limited to film projects. He has also displayed insecurity and manipulative behavior in his personal relationships, often being rude to colleagues or freezing them out entirely. One of the most telling examples was his marriage to Scarlett Johansson, which lasted from 2008 to 2011. Ryan and Scarlett first met and began dating in 2007. After about a year, he proposed, and they tied the knot in 2008. However, their relationship reportedly started crumbling when Scarlett landed major roles in Iron Man 2, and The Avengers between 2009 and 2011, right before those films were released. This timeline is crucial because after their divorce, Scarlett subtly exposed the underlying issues in their marriage. Ever since their split, she has repeatedly hinted at what went wrong, with two key themes always surfacing: jealousy and insecurity. Scarlett Johansson once shared her thoughts on jealousy and control in relationships, stating, "I don't like jealous behavior. I don't mind an occasional check-in, but when somebody is passive-aggressively jealous, it's unattractive because it shows a sort of insecurity. Oh, controlling behavior is awful. Nobody's going to say they love that." Given Ryan Reynolds' well-documented need for control, evident in how he took over Deadpool and pushed out its original director, Scarlett's words strongly suggest that he displayed similar tendencies in their marriage, something she found far from endearing. At the time, Scarlett was securing major roles in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, while Ryan was struggling to find the same level of success. This dynamic seemingly fueled tensions between them, leading Scarlett to believe her career played a part in their split. She reflected on this, saying, "The logistics of being with another actor are challenging. There has to be a real understanding of how you share your time, especially when two people's careers are going at the same rate, even if one person is more successful than the other. That also proves challenging. There may be a competitive thing." In another instance, Scarlett Johansson criticized Ryan Reynolds again for his insecurities, revealing that dating an actor can be unpredictable, something she learned firsthand from her experience with him. She pointed out that in any relationship, one person will inevitably be more successful than the other, but Ryan couldn't handle not being the more accomplished one in their marriage. Scarlett also connected Ryan's insecurities to the way actors struggle with rejection, often interpreting career setbacks as a sign that they're unwanted. This mindset may have played a significant role in the downfall of their marriage, but another major factor was Blake Lively. Ryan and Blake first met while filming Green Lantern, at a time when he was still married to Scarlett. Their chemistry on set was undeniable, and despite being in relationships with other people, they found it difficult to hide their attraction. After both separated from their partners, they quickly started dating. For Ryan, who was already struggling with feelings of losing control in his marriage due to his fragile ego, Blake became an easy escape. However, rather than facing his issues with Scarlett, he formed a connection with Blake in a way that ultimately contributed to the collapse of his marriage. Before Ryan Reynolds met Scarlett Johansson, he was in a long-term relationship with singer Alanis Morissette. The two began dating in 2002 and got engaged in 2004, but after nearly 6 years together, they never made it down the aisle and ultimately called off their wedding. As a musician, Alanis channeled her heartbreak and experiences with Ryan into her work. She revealed that their breakup inspired her album Flavors of Entanglement, with one lyric standing out. "If I just say it's true, I'm unbelievably insecure, really broken, devastated, then I can move through it." What's striking is how often the word insecure appears whenever Ryan's exes speak about him. Given how frequently this theme comes up, it's hard to ignore. But Ryan's reputation isn't just complicated in relationships, it also extends to Hollywood itself. Do you think the scandals and rumors about Ryan Reynolds are true? Comment yes or no and share your thoughts below. One well-known secret in the industry is that many filmmakers are hesitant to work with Ryan because he has a habit of taking over their projects. This issue became so notorious that acclaimed director Quentin Tarantino openly criticized Ryan and the type of films he makes. Tarantino even made it clear that he has no interest in working with him, dismissing him as nothing more than a highly paid actor without any truly meaningful projects to his name. Quentin Tarantino didn't hold back when calling out Ryan Reynolds' Netflix deals. I mean, and I'm not picking on anybody, but apparently for Netflix, Ryan Reynolds has made $50 million on this movie and $50 million on that movie and $50 million on the next movie for them. I don't know what any of those movies are. I've never seen them. Have you? He continued taking shots at Ryan, acknowledging that while it's great he's making so much money, his films feel almost non-existent. This was a direct jab, not just at Ryan, but at streaming platforms in general, something Quentin has openly criticized. Meanwhile, Ryan has collaborated with Netflix on projects like Six Underground, Red Notice, and The Adam Project in recent years. What makes Quentin's frustration even more understandable is that he's not the only filmmaker annoyed by Ryan's approach to movies. Chris Columbus, the original director of the classic Home Alone, was furious when Ryan attempted to produce a reboot of the beloved film. While Chris wasn't entirely against a remake, he strongly opposed Ryan's ridiculous spin on it, Stoned Alone. The proposed film revolved around a 20-something stoner who misses his flight for a holiday ski trip. The plot would then follow a similar structure to the original, with burglars breaking into his house. Chris didn't hold back in his criticism, calling the idea an outright insult to the legacy of Home Alone. He stated, "The reboots are just silly to me. When I read about something called Stoned Alone they were going to do with Ryan, it was an R-rated Home Alone movie about stoners. I thought to myself, this is just an insult to the art of cinema." He advised Ryan to let it go and just watch the original, arguing that even the reboot's title alone was already disrespectful. Similarly to Quentin, who once openly remarked that Ryan Reynolds' movies don't count because they lack the impact needed to be memorable, another celebrity subtly criticized Ryan's films. Gerard Butler took a jab at him when people compared Butler's movie Gamer to Ryan's Free Guy. Since both films revolve around virtual reality gaming, their similarities were pointed out. When Gerard was asked about the connection between the two movies, he responded, "I don't know what Free Guy is." The interviewer clarified, saying, "Free Guy is Ryan's movie," to which Gerard replied that he doesn't watch Ryan Reynolds films. This comment was a clear dig at Ryan, similar to the criticism he's received from several other celebrities. Justin Baldoni, a legal battle that exposed tensions. In January 2025, Justin Baldoni made headlines with a shocking move, filing a $400 million lawsuit against Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds. What began as a professional disagreement escalated into a full-blown legal feud, igniting a firestorm of media attention. Baldoni, known for his role in Jane the Virgin and directing It Ends With Us, accused Lively and Reynolds of defamation and extortion, claiming the couple orchestrated a smear campaign against him following allegations of sexual harassment. This lawsuit was not just a legal maneuver, it was a direct attack on Reynolds and Lively's reputations. Baldoni alleged that the couple used their public influence to tarnish his career, framing him unfairly in the court of public opinion. The timing of the suit was particularly provocative, as Reynolds had been outspoken in supporting Lively during the legal proceedings, drawing even more attention to the intensifying rift. The public reaction was split, with fans polarized by the accusations. Some rallied behind Baldoni, while others defended Reynolds, citing his history of advocacy for various causes. Regardless, this feud is far from over. Will it be resolved in court, or will it fuel Hollywood's next bitter public dispute? Stay tuned. Martha Stewart, a subtle jab at Ryan Reynolds' humor. During a November 2024 appearance on Built Rewards' November rent-free game show, Martha Stewart made a remark that would set social media buzzing. With a wry smile, Stewart casually quipped that Ryan Reynolds is not so funny in real life, and that he is very serious. Her comment, though light-hearted, was seen by many as a subtle public diss, especially considering the two share the quiet, affluent neighborhood of Bedford, New York as neighbors. Reynolds, never one to back down from a playful exchange, swiftly responded on X, formerly Twitter, joking about how he might not be able to entertain Stewart at their next neighborhood gathering. His retort kept things in the spirit of their friendly banter, showing he wasn't taking the jab too seriously. However, Stewart's remark still struck a chord with many fans, who were taken aback by her unexpected take on Reynolds' off-screen persona. The comment felt like a mild slap, given that both are household names, and their shared proximity in Bedford added a layer of surprise. Despite the light-hearted tone, this was a rare instance where Stewart's personal opinion about Reynolds' character took center stage, leaving fans wondering if the two might share a rivalry beyond the surface. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the tension behind Red Notice. What started as a star-studded collaboration soon turned into a behind-the-scenes clash between Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Ryan Reynolds during the filming of Red Notice. Reports from the set suggest that tensions ran high, with Reynolds apparently frustrated by Johnson's alleged unprofessional behavior, including his tendency to arrive late. According to insiders, these delays caused friction on set, affecting the production timeline and creating a rift between the two leading men. While neither actor publicly addressed the specifics of their disagreements, the tension reportedly became so palpable that it was said to have contributed to the delays in Red Notice 2. The friction between the two stars was particularly surprising, given their otherwise playful banter during promotional appearances, where their chemistry seemed effortless. The contrast between the public camaraderie and the reported behind-the-scenes tension left fans wondering how much of their on-screen dynamic was scripted and how much was real. Despite the reports, both Reynolds and Johnson have continued to promote their projects together, leaving fans to speculate whether the beef was ever fully resolved or simply another bump in the road for two of Hollywood's biggest stars. Time will tell if this rift plays a larger role in the future of their collaborations, or if it fades into Hollywood folklore. Rock versus Reynolds. Whose side are you on based off the side that is known? What makes that side more respectable than the other? Billy Sharp. A soccer showdown with Ryan Reynolds. In early 2023, a heated rivalry between Sheffield United's Billy Sharp and Ryan Reynolds' Wrexham AFC flared up during a memorable FA Cup match. After scoring twice against Wrexham, Sharp wasted no time in calling out the team for what he perceived as arrogance, fueling tensions between the two. His comments were an unexpected shot at Wrexham, which had been gaining attention due to Reynolds and his co-owner Rob McElhenney's efforts to elevate the club's profile. Sharp's words didn't sit well with Reynolds, who took the opportunity to respond with a sharp jab of his own. In the Welcome to Wrexham documentary, Reynolds couldn't hide his satisfaction, remarking, "It was so wonderful to see that we got under that guy's skin." His response, filled with playful yet biting sarcasm, only fanned the flames of the feud, highlighting the competitive nature of the sport and the players involved. Fans were divided, with some sympathizing with Sharp's frustration, while others sided with Reynolds, enjoying the cheeky quip. What started as a professional scuffle on the pitch became a public back and forth, leaving fans wondering whether the rivalry between Sharp and Reynolds would continue to simmer or fizzle out over time. Gerard Butler, a mild snub at Ryan Reynolds' film legacy. In September 2021, Gerard Butler, known for his role in 300, made a remark that turned heads in Hollywood. In an interview with Unilad, Butler was asked about Ryan Reynolds' Free Guy 2021, and his response was less than enthusiastic. "I don't know what Free Guy is," Butler admitted, adding that he doesn't watch Reynolds' films. While not a direct attack, the comment was widely interpreted as shade, particularly given the overlap in their action-packed filmographies. Reynolds, ever the good sport, turned the potentially awkward moment into a promotional opportunity. He took to Instagram to humorously address Butler's dismissal, cleverly tying the exchange to a charity initiative. "Hey Gerard, if you ever want to check out Free Guy, I'll happily let you borrow a copy. Also, proceeds go to a good cause," Reynolds quipped, blending his signature wit with his philanthropic efforts. Despite the playful response, Butler's comment still lingered in the public eye, sparking speculation about whether the two actors had any genuine tension. Given their similar fan bases and action movie legacies, many were surprised that Butler's remark wasn't more complimentary. Could this be the start of a rivalry, or was it just an offhand comment? Fans continue to watch and wonder. Dina Cortese, a Jersey Shore star's surprising take on Ryan Reynolds. In 2013, Dina Cortese, known for her antics on Jersey Shore, shared an unexpected story on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. When asked about her interactions with Ryan Reynolds, Cortese didn't exactly heap praise on the actor. "He was not great to us," she revealed, adding a hint of disappointment in her voice. While she clarified that she still admired him, Cortese speculated that Reynolds might have just been having a bad day at the time, suggesting that the encounter might not have been a true reflection of his character. Sammy Giancola, another Jersey Shore cast member, echoed Cortese's sentiment, agreeing that Reynolds wasn't particularly friendly during their brief interaction. Despite the shared negativity, both women remained forgiving, showing understanding that celebrities can sometimes have off moments. Still, their remarks stood in stark contrast to Reynolds' generally positive public image, which had long been characterized by his charm and affable nature. For fans, the revelation was surprising. Reynolds' light-hearted, approachable persona typically leaves a strong impression, but Cortese's comment cast a rare shadow over the actor's reputation. Could it have been a one-time slip, or was it a rare glimpse into Reynolds' true character? The story still lingers in pop culture conversations. Martin Campbell, a subtle snub of Ryan Reynolds. When Green Lantern 2011 fizzled at the box office, director Martin Campbell was left to reflect on the film's shortcomings. In interviews with Variety and Polygon in 2025, Campbell took a moment to discuss his disillusionment with the superhero genre, an industry he admits he never felt passionate about. His words, though measured, revealed a quiet critique of the project's direction, subtly casting a shadow on Ryan Reynolds' performance. "I wasn't enthusiastic about making a superhero movie," Campbell confessed, implying that the film's lackluster reception wasn't just due to the genre itself, but also his wavering commitment to it. While Campbell didn't single out Reynolds by name, his comments were enough to lead many to wonder if the actor's more irreverent portrayal of Hal Jordan contributed to the film's mixed reception. The film's failure, paired with Campbell's retrospective remarks, sparked speculation that Reynolds' characteristic humor might not have been the ideal match for the character's gravitas. Fans were left divided, some defending Reynolds' unique approach, while others wondered if Campbell's disinterest had affected the final product. Though no outright attack, Campbell's reflective dissatisfaction remains a whispered critique in Hollywood circles. Will this never-fulfilled potential resurface in a future collaboration? Only time will tell. Bill Burr, a comedic jab at Ryan Reynolds. Known for his sharp tongue and irreverent humor, stand-up comedian Bill Burr has never shied away from poking fun at Hollywood's brightest stars. Ryan Reynolds, with his ever-present charm and wide-ranging career, has been a frequent target in Burr's routines. In his classic acerbic style, Burr has mocked Reynolds' ubiquitous presence in the entertainment industry, often exaggerating the actor's too-perfect persona for comedic effect. Burr's jabs typically focus on Reynolds' overexposure, quipping that it feels like he's everywhere, perhaps too much so for some audiences. While Burr's critiques are never meant to be malicious, they often highlight the comedic contrast between Reynolds' polished image and Burr's unvarnished, sarcastic brand of humor. The comedian's light-hearted digs at Reynolds' roles, especially in blockbuster franchises, reflect a typical roast-style critique rather than any deep animosity. Fans of Burr have learned to appreciate this kind of humor, where no celebrity, no matter how charming, is safe from his skewering. In the world of comedy, where nothing is off-limits, Burr's playful jabs at Reynolds are just another example of his ability to make fun of the very stars who seem larger than life. Still, with Reynolds' own comedic chops, it's likely he's taken the jokes in stride. Dave Chappelle, a subtle roast of Ryan Reynolds. Dave Chappelle, known for his sharp wit and no-holds-barred social commentary, has also taken his turn roasting Ryan Reynolds in his stand-up routines. Though Chappelle is more famed for his biting critiques of society, race, and culture, even Reynolds' squeaky clean, universally beloved image hasn't been immune to Chappelle's comedic gaze. Chappelle's jabs tend to target the public perception of Reynolds, his ever-smiling, nice guy persona, which Chappelle humorously exaggerates, poking fun at the contrast between that image and the often more cynical reality of celebrity. Like Bill Burr, Chappelle's remarks are light-hearted and never intended to be malicious. In his typical style, Chappelle takes aim at Reynolds' ability to charm audiences in every role, turning that widespread likability into an opportunity for humor. The comic's slight but pointed critiques reflect his skill in turning Hollywood's polished figures into subjects for his observational comedy. While this is a far cry from Chappelle's deeper, more serious social commentary, it shows the comedian's versatility. Even someone as universally adored as Reynolds is not safe from a little roasting, especially when it's delivered with the precision that Chappelle is known for. Whether Reynolds enjoys the banter or not, one thing is clear. In the world of comedy, everyone is fair game. 20 most cruel actors in Hollywood history. Evil side of Hollywood. Hollywood, the land of dreams, fame, and fortune. But behind the glitz and glamour lurks a darker truth. Some of the biggest stars weren't just difficult. They were downright cruel. From on-set tyrants to off-screen predators, these actors left a trail of fear, destruction, and shattered lives. You know their names, but do you know their darkest secrets? What happens when the mask of stardom slips, revealing the monster underneath? Get ready for the shocking truth as we expose 20 of the most cruel actors in Hollywood history. This isn't just gossip, it's the evil side of Hollywood. Elizabeth Taylor. She was a walking curse for any man who loved her, Debbie Reynolds once lamented, her voice thick with betrayal. The world saw Elizabeth Taylor as a goddess, draped in diamonds, but beneath the glitz lurked a black widow who devoured men and left only wreckage in her wake. The late 1950s saw one of Hollywood's most ruthless betrayals. Taylor, a master manipulator cloaked in beauty, struck down her closest friend, sinking her fangs into Eddie Fisher, Reynolds' husband and the grieving best friend of Taylor's deceased spouse, Mike Todd. With chilling precision, she dismantled a marriage, shattering Reynolds' heart and dooming Fisher's career to the grave. "She killed my father's future," Todd Fisher later lamented, watching his once famous dad fade into obscurity while Taylor continued her reign unchecked. But her hunger was never sated. Just 5 years later, with Eddie Fisher's career still smoldering in ruins, Taylor set her sights on Richard Burton. The set of Cleopatra became her next hunting ground. "It wasn't passion, it was addiction," whispered a horrified crew member, recalling the scandal that would shake Hollywood to its core. 8 marriages, countless affairs, and a trail of devastated lovers defined her path. She consumed men like morning coffee, one insider scoffed, and yet the world worshipped her. Taylor was untouchable, a glittering predator in a world too enchanted to see the destruction she left behind. Stay tuned, Hollywood's darkest secrets are yet to be unveiled. Marlon Brando. Hollywood worshipped him as a god, but behind closed doors, Marlon Brando was something far more terrifying. A master manipulator, a sadist, a destroyer of lives. His charisma was a weapon, his beauty a disguise, and those who fell under his spell rarely escaped unscathed. Rita Moreno, one of his most famous lovers, spent 8 years trapped in his cycle of cruelty. "I tried to kill myself in his house," she later revealed. As she lay bleeding, Brando watched with cold detachment. His first instinct wasn't to help but to preserve his own reputation. He called his agent before calling a doctor. For Moreno, love with Brando wasn't romance, it was psychological warfare. But Brando's darkest crime played out on the set of Last Tango in Paris. Maria Schneider, just 19, became an unwilling pawn in his sick game. The infamous butter scene, humiliating, traumatic, wasn't in the script. "I felt raped," Schneider admitted, her voice forever laced with pain. Brando had planned it behind her back, delighting in her suffering. "He enjoyed breaking people," one crew member recalled with disgust. Even his own children weren't spared from the carnage. His son, Christian, ended up in prison. His daughter, Cheyenne, took her own life. Brando, once Hollywood's golden boy, spent his later years as a bloated, decaying shadow of himself. A fitting transformation for a man who had long since rotted from within. Some called him a genius, others knew the truth. He was a monster. Kirk Douglas. Hollywood painted him as a hero, a dimple-chinned icon, a champion of justice on screen. But behind closed doors, Kirk Douglas was something far more sinister. A predator cloaked in charm, a man whose power crushed those who dared to resist him. His legacy was built not just on cinematic triumphs, but on whispered horrors that never saw the light of day. At just 15, Natalie Wood learned the true nature of Hollywood's golden boy. Lured to a suite at the Chateau Marmont, she endured hours of brutality that would haunt her for life. "Keep your mouth shut or you won't live to tell anyone," he allegedly warned, his voice devoid of the warmth audiences adored. Decades later, Wood's mother confided in friends, but Douglas remained untouchable. His legend too powerful, his sins buried beneath his status. But Wood wasn't his only victim. He collected young actresses like trading cards, a former agent revealed. If they submitted, they were discarded. If they resisted, their careers crumbled. Studio executives looked the other way, unwilling to challenge a star whose influence could make or break a film. He wasn't just an actor, he was a master of deception, one industry insider admitted. Even in death, Douglas escaped judgment, living to 103, while his victims faded into silence. But his crimes were never forgotten. He lived long enough to see his sins buried, one grieving family member stated bitterly, but the truth never dies. James Dean. Like a wildfire burning out of control, James Dean left nothing but destruction in his wake. Hollywood remembers him as the tragic symbol of youthful rebellion. But those who worked with him knew a different story, a story of cruelty, arrogance, and reckless disregard for anyone but himself. On Broadway, long before he became a screen idol, Dean had already built a reputation as a saboteur. He was like a child pulling wings off flies, a co-star recalled, describing how he would deliberately alter his movements on stage just to throw fellow actors off balance. His idea of fun was watching others struggle. By the time he hit Hollywood, his toxic behavior had only intensified. Even industry legends recoiled. John Wayne dismissed him outright. He's an idiot. Acting is the only thing he's smart enough to do. Rock Hudson, rarely one to speak ill of colleagues, admitted that Dean was hard to be around, sulky, foul-mouthed, and completely lacking in manners. Press agent Robert Mann confirmed it. He had no respect for anyone. And yet, when he died recklessly at 24, Hollywood enshrined him as a fallen angel. But for those who knew the real James Dean, there was no tragedy, only inevitability. He didn't die young, one director scoffed. He lived exactly as long as someone that toxic deserved to live. A legend, perhaps. But behind the myth was something far less romantic. A brilliant, beautiful menace who never cared how many lives he burned along the way. These actors may have charmed us on screen, but behind the scenes they were downright cruel. Drop a 1 in the comments and stick around until the end to uncover their dark secrets. Joan Crawford. Hollywood adored her. Audiences worshipped her. But behind the closed doors of her lavish mansion, Joan Crawford wasn't a glamorous screen queen. She was a sadistic tormentor, ruling her home with an iron fist and a chilling smile. Christina Crawford, the most famous of her adopted children, exposed the nightmare in Mommy Dearest, a memoir so shocking it shattered the myth of the loving Hollywood mother. She tried to kill me, Christina recounted. At just 13, she felt her mother's manicured hands tightening around her throat. You can see it in someone's eyes when they want you dead. While America watched Crawford play devoted mothers on screen, her own children lived in a waking horror movie. Wire hangers weren't just household items, they were weapons of pain. Scalding water became a twisted form of discipline. Beatings were routine, often carried out with eerie calm. She would smile while hurting us, Christina revealed, the memory still raw decades later. That's what made it truly terrifying. She enjoyed it. The abuse didn't stop at physical pain. Crawford thrived on psychological torture, playing her children against one another, keeping them in a constant state of fear. And yet, Hollywood turned a blind eye. The Academy crowned her a queen, oblivious to the horrors playing out behind her estate's locked doors. But the truth couldn't stay buried forever. Joan Crawford's legacy wasn't just cinematic gold, it was also the blueprint for Hollywood's most infamous monster mother. Jerry Lewis. Laughter masked his cruelty. To the world, Jerry Lewis was the clown prince of Hollywood, the genius behind slapstick gold and tear-jerking telethons. But behind the painted-on smiles lurked a tyrant, a man who wielded power not just over audiences but over his own flesh and blood. Joseph Lewis, the comedian's youngest son, knew the real Jerry better than anyone. He didn't grow up with a father, he grew up with a tormentor. The man who made the world laugh was a brutal disciplinarian at home, dishing out physical and psychological torment with the same energy he brought to his comedy routines. And when Joseph finally escaped his father's grasp, he was punished with total erasure, cut off, disowned, discarded like an old joke. He beat himself up 1,000 times over his son's death, insiders whispered. But the truth was even darker. He beat his son 1,000 times, then pretended he never existed, a family member revealed. When Joseph died of an overdose at 45, his father's reaction was deafening. Silence. No tribute, no grief, not even a public acknowledgement. Jerry Lewis had erased him in life and ensured he was forgotten in death. Hollywood still honors him, still laughs at his gags. But behind the curtain, Jerry Lewis wasn't just a king of comedy. He was a man who turned his own home into a private hell, with his own son as the ultimate casualty. Bill Cosby. The image of America's dad served as the ultimate disguise for one of the most prolific predators in the country's history. Over the course of 5 decades, Bill Cosby orchestrated a systematic campaign of abuse so disturbing, it could rival Hollywood's most sinister villains. The worst part wasn't the attack, one of his 60 accusers shared. It was watching him play the perfect father on TV afterward. While The Cosby Show cemented his reputation as the quintessential family man, reality painted a far darker picture. Behind the scenes, he was drugging and assaulting women nationwide, using quaaludes and the guise of mentorship as his primary tools. Cosby's crimes extended beyond physical assault. He meticulously groomed his victims, positioning himself as both a father figure and a career guide. He didn't just take their bodies, a former NBC executive revealed. He took their trust in humanity. His method followed a chillingly consistent pattern. A young aspiring actress or model, promises of career guidance, a drugged drink, and then unconsciousness. He had it down to a science, stated an attorney representing one of his victims. Each assault was meticulously planned and carried out. His power wasn't solely in his celebrity status, it was in his ability to operate in plain sight. Who would believe these women over the beloved Dr. Huxtable? He manipulated his wholesome public persona as a weapon. Every episode of The Cosby Show acted like a shield, making his victims' stories seem implausible, a criminal psychologist observed. Even after his conviction, Cosby displayed no remorse. Upon his release due to a legal technicality, he had the audacity to portray himself as a victim of racial injustice. He's not just a predator, one accuser asserted. He's a master manipulator still trying to rewrite his own history of horror. The most harrowing reality. The full scope of his crimes will likely never be known. For every woman who spoke out, their attorney explained, there are probably 10 more who couldn't bear the trauma of coming forward. Cosby's legacy isn't just about a once-beloved TV show tarnished. It's a 50-year reign of terror that permanently altered the way society views its cultural icons. Lucille Ball. Behind the laughter, behind the perfect comedic timing, Lucille Ball wasn't just tough, she was terrifying. America saw a lovable, bumbling redhead, but those who worked with her knew the truth. She was a ruthless, domineering force who ruled her sets with an iron fist and an acid tongue. A lot of people found her very, very tough to work with, Tony Randall once said, carefully choosing his words. But toughness doesn't reduce people to tears. Ball's reign at Desilu Productions was legendary not just for its success, but for the sheer fear she instilled in those around her. She didn't spare anybody's feelings, a former crew member recalled. Criticism wasn't just harsh, it was public, brutal, and often meant to humiliate. For young actresses, working with Ball was like walking into a lion's den. She enjoyed breaking people, one producer admitted. Whether it was a cutting remark or a deliberate act of sabotage, she relished proving her dominance. It was like she was compensating for something dark inside herself. Even those closest to her weren't safe. Desi Arnaz, her husband and business partner, may have been a notorious womanizer, but Ball's need for absolute control made their marriage just as volatile. Off-screen, she was nothing like the endearing housewife she played. She was calculating, cold, and utterly merciless. America loved Lucy, Hollywood feared her, and those who crossed her never forgot the wrath of television's most powerful tyrant. Bette Davis. Like a cobra coiled in diamonds and fur, Bette Davis didn't just dominate Hollywood, she ruled it through fear. With eyes that could cut through steel and a tongue sharper than any script, she destroyed careers with a single phone call and left a trail of broken spirits in her wake. Joan Crawford learned this the hard way. Their infamous feud wasn't just for publicity, it was a war. On the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Davis didn't just act her cruelty, she lived it. In one infamous moment, she allegedly kicked Crawford in the head with full force. She enjoyed causing real pain, a crew member revealed. The more it hurt, the more she smiled. For Davis, suffering wasn't a consequence. It was a form of entertainment. But her reign of terror wasn't limited to Hollywood rivals. Even her own daughter, B.D. Hyman, was a casualty. In her memoir, My Mother's Keeper, Hyman exposed the real Davis, a cold, manipulative woman whose on-screen horror roles were frighteningly true to life. Mother wasn't acting in her horror films, she wrote. She was just being herself. Davis's response: she can write whatever lies she wants. She's dead to me anyway. To the world, she was a legend. To those who knew her, she was a nightmare wrapped in satin and smoke. Bette Davis didn't just play villains, she embodied them. Spencer Tracy. Hollywood revered him as a man of quiet strength, a devoted Catholic husband, a dignified leading man, but behind the pious facade, Spencer Tracy was a wolf in priest's robes, a ruthless predator who turned MGM into his personal playground, seducing and discarding women like trophies in a twisted game of dominance. Nobody at MGM gets more sex than Spencer Tracy. It wasn't just a boast, it was a warning. His conquests weren't romances. They were conquests in the truest sense, power plays masked as passion. Ingrid Bergman, Hedy Lamarr, Gene Tierney each fell under his spell, only to be tossed aside when he grew bored. He'd seduce them, then destroy them, a former studio executive admitted. It was his way of marking his territory. Even his most famous relationship, the supposedly great love story with Katharine Hepburn, was built on deception. While he carefully curated his image as a devoted Catholic who refused to divorce his wife, Tracy carried on a 26-year affair that Hollywood insiders whispered about, but the public never knew. Hepburn, for all her independence, was just another piece in his carefully constructed double life. Tracy's talent made him untouchable, his sins buried beneath the weight of his on-screen gravitas. But those who knew him saw the truth. Spencer Tracy wasn't a saintly figure of old Hollywood. He was a devil in disguise, cloaked in faith but driven by vice. Does this information change your perception of Spencer Tracy? Was he a wolf in priest's robes? Yes or no? Errol Flynn. In Like Flynn wasn't just a phrase, it was a whispered warning, a dark joke about Hollywood's most shameless predator. With his devilish grin and effortless charm, Errol Flynn played heroes on screen while living as a monster behind closed doors. His kingdom wasn't just the silver screen, it was a world of yachts, mansions, and underage victims. In 1942, while American soldiers fought for freedom overseas, Flynn was fighting a different kind of battle against multiple charges of statutory rape. The accusations painted a horrifying picture. Teenage girls lured onto his yacht, lavish parties where innocence was stolen, a predator who saw himself as untouchable. He called them his little flowers, a former employee recalled in disgust. Some were as young as 15. Yet, even as he stood trial, Flynn continued starring in patriotic war films, draped in Hollywood's carefully crafted illusion of heroism. His acquittal wasn't justice, it was a testament to the industry's ability to protect its most despicable figures. The courtroom may have cleared his name, but the whispers never stopped. Flynn spent the rest of his life indulging in excess, women, drugs, alcohol, until it all caught up with him. By the time he died at 50, his once golden image had decayed into something grotesque. But his legacy remains, a reminder of how easily Hollywood forgives its demons, as long as they make the world believe in the fantasy. Frank Sinatra. His voice was velvet, his charm undeniable, but behind the polished exterior of Old Blue Eyes lurked a man far darker than the gangsters he called friends. Frank Sinatra wasn't just connected to the mob, he was worse than them. He was more dangerous than the mobsters, one FBI agent admitted, and the government knew it. His infamous 300-page FBI file barely scratched the surface of his reign of terror. Sinatra didn't just sing about doing it my way. He made sure no one dared cross him. Journalists who exposed his secrets found themselves followed, harassed, or worse. One critic who dared mock him was hospitalized after a brutal beating courtesy of Sinatra's connections. He carried a grudge like a weapon, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He didn't just want revenge, a former associate revealed. He wanted people to suffer. His rap sheet wasn't just whispered rumors. In 1938, he was arrested for seduction, a polite legal term for what would now be called coercion. But Sinatra, the untouchable, slipped through the cracks of justice time and time again. While Hollywood saw a legend, those who knew the real Sinatra lived in fear. He died a hero to the world, draped in nostalgia and accolades. But the truth remains, Sinatra's real legacy wasn't written in music. It was written in intimidation, violence, and the quiet terror of those who crossed him. Orson Wells. Orson Wells didn't just consume meals, he consumed people. His appetite was legendary, not just for food, but for domination, for destruction, for leaving those around him as hollow as the grand visions he once brought to life. He didn't just eat food, one colleague observed, he devoured people's spirits. Even Hollywood's elite weren't safe from his razor-sharp cruelty. Marlon Brando, a huge sausage, a shoe made of flesh. Bette Davis, disgusting. No one met his impossible standards, except himself. Yet, as his career crumbled, even Wells couldn't escape his own scorn. He took on commercial voiceover work to survive, But rather than being grateful, he seethed. He hated everyone who paid him, a former agent revealed, but he hated himself more. By the time Richard Burton approached him in 1983 with a simple greeting, Wells's response was as bloated and bitter as the man himself. Go yourself. This wasn't just rudeness. It was the true voice of a man who had spent decades destroying everyone, including himself. Once a visionary, Wells became a grotesque shadow of his former brilliance, a tragic figure who had feasted on everything, respect, friendships, his own legacy, until there was nothing left but the remains of a genius too poisoned by his own venom to be saved. W.C. Fields. The world saw W.C. Fields as a lovable curmudgeon, a gin-soaked misanthrope with a sharp wit, and a comedic disdain for children. But behind the booze and punchlines lay something far more sinister, a man who didn't just dislike kids but delighted in their fear. He didn't just dislike children, a former co-star revealed. He actively sought to traumatize them. On set, Fields turned his personal darkness into a game, whispering horrific things to child actors between takes, watching their smiles fade into terror. He enjoyed watching their innocence die, the source continued. It was like he was trying to destroy his own childhood demons by creating new ones. His cruelty wasn't limited to children. Fields treated co-stars with the same venom, insulting them, sabotaging scenes, and reveling in making others uncomfortable. The drunken persona wasn't just an act. He was rarely sober, often showing up to set slurring, sneering, and full of bile. Those who dared confront him met with brutal mockery or outright threats. By the time his career faded, Fields had become a grotesque caricature of himself, his bloated body mirroring the ugliness inside. Hollywood remembered the laughs, but those who knew him never forgot the man behind the mask. A bitter, broken soul who found joy only in the misery of others. New allegations about W.C. Fields. How credible does the information seem like to you? Share below. Greta Garbo. She was Hollywood's most enigmatic star, a ghostly presence who shunned the spotlight. But Greta Garbo's reclusiveness wasn't about mystery, it was about control. She didn't just withdraw from people, she wielded isolation like a weapon, a calculated tool to remind others of their insignificance. To me, you're null and void. Her infamous dismissal of Marion Davies wasn't just an insult, it was a glimpse into the cold, ruthless soul behind the legend. Garbo didn't crave privacy, she craved power. She wanted to hurt people by excluding them, a former assistant revealed, and she made a game of it. Visitors to her set were often lured in under the illusion of friendship, only to be humiliated and thrown out. She fed on their pain, an industry insider disclosed. It was like watching a vampire at work. The more they admired her, the more pleasure she took in their rejection. Unlike other Hollywood tyrants, Garbo's cruelty wasn't loud or explosive. It was silent, chilling, and deeply personal. She knew her allure was intoxicating, and she used it to make people feel small, disposable, null and void. She may have retired young, but the scars she left behind never faded. The Ice Queen of Hollywood didn't just freeze out the world, she made sure it suffered in the cold. Charlie Chaplin. Hollywood worshipped him as a genius, a pioneer, the man who brought laughter to the masses. But behind the mustache and the shuffling feet, Charlie Chaplin wasn't a lovable underdog. He was a cold, calculating predator who used his fame to exploit and control young girls. All while the world applauded. Chaplin's obsession with teenage girls was no secret. He didn't just pursue them, he groomed them. His second wife, Lita Gray, was just 15 when he seduced her, impregnated her, and then married her to avoid statutory rape charges. He was a monster, Gray later revealed. I was a child, and he treated me like property. The marriage was a nightmare of abuse, manipulation, and suffocating control. When she finally escaped, Chaplin used his wealth and influence to try to ruin her. And she wasn't the only one. Chaplin's taste for young girls was insatiable, his relationships tainted with power imbalances that turned love into something far more sinister. He demanded absolute control over his partners, discarding them the moment they resisted. He loved power more than people, a former friend admitted. Even at the height of his career, scandals swirled. His political views made him a target, but it wasn't his alleged communist sympathies that made Hollywood shun him. It was the darkness behind his charm, the predator lurking beneath the legend. The world remembers the tramp, but those who knew the real Chaplin remember the tyrant. John Wayne. John Wayne, a legendary figure from Hollywood's golden era, was widely recognized for his conservative views and outspoken nature, which occasionally led to friction with others in the industry. His firm convictions resulted in clashes with some colleagues, including the esteemed Clark Gable. One significant conflict arose during the production of the 1953 film Hondo, directed by John Ford. Any hope for a smooth collaboration between Wayne and Gable was overshadowed by Ford's harsh remarks about Gable's age and looks. These criticisms fostered a tense atmosphere on set, leading to frequent arguments between the two actors. The situation worsened when Ford extended his disrespectful conduct to Gable's co-star Ava Gardner. Outraged by Ford's mistreatment of the cast and his disregard for their feelings, Gable repeatedly stormed off set. This growing frustration ultimately led to the end of his professional association with Ford. In her book John Wayne, My Father, Wayne's daughter, Isa Wayne, shed light on the lasting animosity between Gable and Ford. She explained that their hostility persisted for years, with Wayne standing firmly by Ford's side. Despite having no personal grievances with Gable, Wayne frequently spoke ill of him out of loyalty to Ford. While he would compliment Gable's looks in person, his allegiance to Ford seemed to overshadow any genuine appreciation for the actor. Though Wayne acknowledged Gable's physical appeal, he was also known to disparage his intelligence. He once remarked, "Gable's an idiot. Do you know why Gable's an actor? It's the only thing he's smart enough to do." These remarks reflect not only Wayne's personal views, but also invite a broader discussion on how intelligence and talent are perceived within the film industry. Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney, celebrated for his youthful charm, was a standout figure in Hollywood's golden age, earning 4 Academy Award nominations. His collaborations with Judy Garland and his portrayal of Andy Hardy became emblematic of post-war idealism and small-town innocence, captivating audiences with their wholesome appeal. However, Rooney's personal life starkly contrasted with the clean-cut image he projected on screen. His struggles with gambling and substance abuse tainted his reputation, and accounts of his misconduct on set painted a troubling picture. Allegations surfaced that he used the infamous casting couch to audition young actresses for roles that never actually existed, exposing a more unsettling side of his character. One particularly disturbing claim involves an alleged relationship with a 14-year-old Elizabeth Taylor, while Rooney, then in his 20s, was already married. This allegation, which surfaced years later, contradicts the charming and innocent personas he played, with Rooney being described as blisteringly bombastic, abrasive and nasty. His demeanor in professional settings was often far from amicable. Rooney's negative remarks about his colleagues, including belittling comments about Elizabeth Taylor, further reveal a less flattering side of his personality, challenging the widely held image of him. His unprofessional conduct extended beyond the set. Following their work together on National Velvet in 1944, he criticized Taylor, calling her entitled and dismissing her talent. Faye Dunaway. Page 6 recently detailed the troubling downfall of 78-year-old film icon Faye Dunaway, who was dismissed from Tea at 5 due to allegations of erratic behavior, including physical aggression, emotional outbursts, and unusual on-set demands. Concerns over Dunaway's conduct have circulated for years. One particularly alarming incident was recalled by Rutanya Alda from the 1981 production of Mommy Dearest. Alda claimed Dunaway physically struck her during a scene, stating, "Instead of doing a stage slap, she slapped me on the cheek, hard and for real." Reports of other conflicts behind the scenes have also emerged. Broadway wig designer Paul Huntley recounted an episode from the 1996 tour of Masterclass, where Dunaway allegedly slapped his assistant's hand in frustration over hairpins, leaving the assistant stunned. Page 6 revisited a claim from Easy Rider's Raging Bulls, which alleged that during the 1974 filming of Chinatown, Dunaway demanded Teamsters flush her toilet. Additional accusations suggested she relieved herself in trash cans and threw a cup of urine at director Roman Polanski when denied a bathroom break. Dunaway dismissed these claims, stating she had no recollection of such incidents and found them ridiculous. James Woods also shared a negative experience with Dunaway from the 1976 film The Disappearance of Amy, alleging she threw an object at him for improvising a line. He criticized her rudeness and unfavorably compared her to Bette Davis, who reportedly considered Dunaway among the worst people in Hollywood. Page 6 further reported on Dunaway's struggles with memorizing lines for Tea at 5. This issue was supported by singer Jill Saboul, who recalled Dunaway's behavior during the disappearance of Amy, describing her as hours late in a foul mood, yelling at people and storming off the set, in a manner reminiscent of Valley of the Dolls. If there's one thing we can take away from these celebrity tensions, it's that even the brightest stars face their own battles behind the scenes. Whether it's professional disagreements or playful jabs, it's all part of the game. These moments remind us that no one is perfect, and that it's okay to embrace flaws, disagreements, and even a little humor. After all, it's how we grow and learn from the experience that truly matters. So what do you think? Do you think these feuds will blow over? Or is there more drama to come? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the latest from Iconic Inside. We've got a lot more juicy stories coming your way, so stay tuned.